Welcome to the New Economy. What's next? My guest today is Ahmad Thompson, and he's from Astute Talent Management. And we're going to talk about the relationship between employees and management and ownership and how it doesn't need to be so contentious. So stay tuned. So welcome to the show.
Indeed, DRC, it's a pleasure to be here, man. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to connect with your audience and to talk about this very important topic. I think it's something that we got to get into for a bit here, you know?
Yeah. You're an HR professional. That's what you're known as. And, I was just reading one of your posts that you did on LinkedIn about this whole, this great resignation that's going on in the developed world, where employees finally kind of have the bargaining power to pick and choose which jobs they work at. And it's causing a lot of grief for businesses and for societies in general. And the reason I wanted to bring you on the show is because you're an expert at this stuff. And so why don't you start by telling our guests a little bit about yourself and your company and what you guys do?
Sure. So my name is Ahmad Thompson, like DRC said. I am the CTO, the different kind of CTO. So I'm the Chief Talent Officer of Astute Talent Management. And my company is geared toward helping organizations and individuals unleash and realize their full potential as an organization, but also as an individual. I think a lot of people underestimate that there is value in who they hire, that their biggest resource and the most important resource is in fact the human resource. But a lot of people on the individual side take for granted that they should be sharpening themselves at every opportunity they get. And so my company can focus on DRC himself or RWAC the company and come in and shift the way their talent responds to what they do as leaders, but also how you show up as talent in the organization as well.
It's so important because, when you get into the old, I'm getting into the old stuff. So the means of production are an asset like land, labor, and capital. And oftentimes companies have kind of set themselves up, structured themselves in a way where the owners of capital, the business owners, have this antagonistic relationship with their labor force, with the people that actually have to do the work. And it's viewed kind of as a zero-sum game. How do you guys at Astute Talent Management break that, I would say, even ingrained mentality in both management, ownership, as well as the line staff?
It starts with, I believe that everything rises and falls with leadership. You could have the most prominent idea. It could be really, really great as an idea, as a construct to bring to life and make lots and lots of money. But if you as a leader, if your leadership team does not value who you need to get this work done, it will never come to pass. And people can say, oh, I could just fire her or fire him. But there's going to be somebody you bring in that will realize, wait a minute, this isn't it. I don't need this to make a few dollars. I can go somewhere else with what I bring to the table and move on. And so you find yourself with a revolving door of, I can fire him, I can fire her, and no one really sticking it through to see your vision come to life. So it starts with leadership, it ends with leadership, but in the middle of it is relationship with people. I truly
and that's what people so often forget, that these are people.
They are human beings with human emotions, human issues, human concerns,
wants, needs,
right?
Yeah.
And they want to feel, one, safe at work. They want to feel valued at work, and they want to feel like what they can say and do contributes to the overall goal of what you are trying to achieve. There's a construct in HR right now, in the HR space, DRC, that speaks to diversity, equity, inclusion, and now belonging.
Okay.
Because all of it is important, but it's like the belonging to me in my mind is the most important factor. As an organization, you said that the factors of production are land, labor, and you said capital, right? You need money, you gotta have money to make money, right? You need the asset to essentially get your
to work. Yeah, something to work.
But that person, that people aspect is really, really the bedrock of it all. And you can have an organization that says you're diverse, you're equitable, you're inclusive, you're treating everybody the same, everybody has access to the same opportunities. But unless I feel like I belong to your organization, I don't really contribute my best. And belonging is more than just telling somebody, I want you here. It's like, okay, you remember we went to St. Augustine's, and SAC would usually have these class dances, these school dances at Fun Day, right? And there were opportunities for you to go to the dance whenever you wanted to. There was no like segregation or anything like that. But if you were invited to the dance, you were told, hey, the dance is at 3 o'clock, come on, the cafeteria is gonna be at 3 o'clock. You get to the dance and there's a separate section where there's real music playing. You are in the space where everybody else is having a good time, but you can't get to the real music part. Do you really feel like you belong to this dance?
No, no, of course not.
Dance for it, but you don't feel like you belong. And I think that's where people need to start. They need to start in the making everybody in their team feel like, you know what? There's a space for you that I've created for you. I need you. I want you. Give me your best.
Yep, I agree completely. And then of course the incentives should be there. It should be the contractual agreement should like line up with that
minimum contract thing, right? You're going to be paid this fair wage. You're going to have opportunities for advancement in this way. You're going to have benefits in this form. And those things all matter. People come to work to make money, no matter what they tell you.
Yeah, no, but they don't just come to work to make money.
Right. Like I come into work because I know I have a bill to pay or an obligation to meet. But while I am here, I want to feel like I belong. I want to have a voice. I want to be valued. I want to be treated with respect. And I want you to understand that without me, without threatening you, without me, you really can't get this done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's you know, we share a lot of the same philosophy in that, which is why I thought it was appropriate, because we talk about all these business things, you know, on the show, you know, technology, marketing, you know, new ideas, new products, but you need people. You need people. No matter what you're doing,
you need a person to get this thing done. And but you know, on the flip side of it, DRC, there's a lot of people focus on the employer only. I want a message to be sent to the employees. Ladies and gentlemen, there are options for employers as well. Let's not get it twisted. You don't have to be a jackrabbit, my father would say, to show your worth or show your value. If you feel like the organization you work with is not showing you that value, you have the option of moving on also, right? That's easier said than done in many cases. A lot of people are out here and they really can't just pick up and walk off a job. I get that. But until and unless you get to the point where you're so bothered by what you are going through that it fuels you to move on to something different or something better, then you really can't blame anybody else but what you decide to put up with. As an employee as well, I, as an employer, are only able to do what you allow me to, and the same goes for the employer.
Well, let's. My producer is kind of looking at me, and he's saying we got to go to commercial. Let us continue after the commercial break with discussing the employee's responsibility, because as we talk about relationships are not one way. Nope. They're two ways. So we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm D.R.C. Ramming, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Arawak X. Arawak X is a fully regulated securities exchange in the Bahamas. We are the financial gateway to the Caribbean. We match investors with startups and high-growth companies over the internet. Come talk to us at Arawak X to learn more about our diverse portfolio.
The relationships in companies, and we in the Bahamas, when people start talking about relationships, we kind of get all flustered and funny. But we have different types of relationships, and the relationship between you and your boss and his boss, and the company is just a collection of relationships. And we were talking about the employees' responsibilities in a company, and what is it that you want a fair wage, you want advancement, you want to be treated with respect, but you also have to give something for that.
Yes. So in our country, the Employment Act is what governs us as employees and employers. That's what governs our relationship and forms the basis of how we operate. And there are two words that are used in the Employment Act. One is duty and one is responsibility, right? Duty is my job as an employee. Responsibility is your job as an employer. I have a duty as an employee to show up, give my best every day, to govern myself by way of the company's rules and regulations, to not steal from you, to not lambaste your company, all of those things. It goes a little bit further though, when you bring in the fact that everybody in this organization is human.
Yes.
And in every human relationship, there's going to be conflict, there's going to be confusion, there's going to be mix-up, there's going to be contention. And I think the biggest way to resolve all of it is to start by one, stating what you want from an employee.
I thought the biggest way was to take photos and put it on Facebook.
Oh, yes, that's important. and cool
videos.
And a nice, clean, crisp vision that says one thing and there's another. Listen to me. Vision and mission statements are things of the past and they mean nothing if everything you say and do does not coincide with your vision or your mission.
Yes, yes.
I tell my clients all the time, the only thing that makes you less credible is when you say one thing and do another. If DRC says I'm going to be there at 9:30 and he's there at 9:30, whatever my theory is about him becomes a conspiracy. But if DRC says I'm going to be there at 9:30, it's just about 9:48, whatever I said about him, there's now truth to what I said, even if it wasn't altogether true. But you created an opportunity as a leader, as a person, to make whatever's in my head become truth. But if you say one thing and do that thing, I become the conspiracy theorist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And this is really important, especially for knowledge workers. Like if you're showing up to work and the only thing, and I'm not lambasting people that are in these positions, of course. People, all work has honor and dignity. But especially if you're a knowledge worker, your intellect is what's creating the product. You have a lot of leverage over your employee, your employer, in the sense that they really can't do it without you. And I say all that to say that this is not a really, so if I'm stumbling over my words, this is a difficult discussion to have on television because there's a lot of pain. There's been a lot of bad business practices both ways. We all in the business community, everybody has that terrible employee story, and in the working community, everybody has that terrible boss story. So it's like but when things click, when things work, when people are doing their duties and their responsibilities, it all becomes magic. The company becomes magical.
That's the best word to describe it. It's magic. It's incandescent. You can't really, you can't explain it, but you can understand why it's happening. It's a natural, organic chemistry that comes from, again, that leadership. Because DRC, if it is that you say it on paper, it's on the wall, there's a beautiful sign that has our vision and our mission and what we want to accomplish. But if everything our leadership team does is contrary to that vision or mission, nothing comes to pass.
Nothing.
And employees who take it upon themselves to do things that are contrary to what the company's mission and vision is also doing a disservice. But each of those organizations, each of those entities, the employee and the employer has a choice. Because I always hear clients tell me, oh, when I deal with organizations, oh, well, that's just how she go. You can't really mind her. Mom? So,
yeah, that's not how.
And robbery that I've ever heard in my entire life. It's like telling the robber, I'm going to be home at 6, I'm going to be gone at 6 p.m. I'm going to leave all the doors open. All of the money is in the bottom drawer in the left. Come in and take what you want. Because if you know that a man is causing a problem, you realize that the problem is A, B, and C. You've identified what the issues are. You've identified what the problem is. Why are you allowing him to stay?
Exactly.
There can be corrective measures.
You're on the in the management side of things.
Yes.
You can't allow that person to stay because they will affect everyone else.
Everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, on the flip side, if you have a leadership team, DRC, and let's just say it's 5 people on an executive team, and one of those guys, one of those ladies is just a complete tyrant. I mean, just a disaster, a catastrophe.
We all know what word you were thinking of, but
yes, right? Let's keep it clean. Let's keep it clean. This person is a tyrant. They're really, really bad for business, but they are really, really good for business. What you have to make a decision. You have to stand by the integrity of your organization and either get this person up to speed or release them. Because there is somebody else who is as good as or better than this individual.
That's correct. It's
you
correct.
know, we cannot have the integrity of the organization being destroyed or compromised by way of one individual's choice to not be as good as they could be.
To add to what you're saying, we in the finance space, so investors look at companies that have great teams.
Yes.
And so it's really, really, really important because the team, you could have the best business plan in the world, you could have the best ideas in the world, but if that team isn't functioning properly, you get your hat band beaten. The market is just not going to accept what you're doing. And, it's, frankly, it's these soft people skills that make the difference.
Yes. I went to an organization the other day. It was a dental office. And this is the first time I've ever been treated like patient Ahmad Rashad Thompson at a dentist office. Usually it just feels like, come on in, get your teeth clean and go home. From the time I called the office, there was a sense of, I'm the only person they have in mind. And it's a dental office. You go in to get something done to your teeth and you may be in here when you leave.
That's a really sweet feeling though. It
was, and from the moment I spoke to the lady on the phone until I left, 100% of the way, it was like I was the only one that mattered to them. And that to me was a clear signal that everybody there is on the same page. Of course they have issues, of course they have challenges, of course they have mix-up. But they are speaking what they are doing, they're doing what they are saying. And everybody's on the same page. There was a complete sense of cohesiveness. I was like, man, you're never gonna lose my business. This was incredible.
Yeah, and it's that's what business is supposed to be about. Yes, you get your service, but you feel good getting that service. Yeah, it's like it's magical. Like you feel like you feel like paying your money. That was
everybody since then about this place, and I'm like, look, if your dentist A&M, you got to make up your mind to go there to change dentists because they were incredible. It was incredible, and I think to your point about investors choosing who they invest in these days, people look at the cohesiveness of a team. They look at your brand as an organization because they don't want to be investing in someone that's going to be having a high turnover every 6 months. Nobody's passing probation.
There's only one industry that the high turnover seems to be acceptable, and that's finance. But anyway, I'll leave that alone before I get in trouble. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to continue talking about these relationships, but also the future.
Arawak X opens frontier and emerging markets where you can discover innovative companies that have high growth potential. We support initiatives that promote financial inclusion and social justice through equal access to investment opportunities and capital. Come talk to us at Arawak X to learn more about our diverse portfolio.
Talking about relationships, we're talking about how when the team is humming and everybody's on the same page, the product and the customer just feel like, wow, that was a magical experience. For us at Arawak X, we're trying to do that. We spend a lot of time and effort on making sure that the team is cohesive, the team works. You don't necessarily need to like your coworker, but you should still be, as a professional, be able to work with them and to be productive together. And then after a few battles, you probably will like them. And then their rough parts, that is where you could say, oh, that's just how they are, because they got the rough parts, but they can jam and we work together as a team. And that's really what we strive to do at our firm. I think it's really helped. I hope the society is seeing the benefits of what we're able to do because of it. But this is changing tracks a little bit. This is really important to me, really important subject, because while I may be the principal of this firm, my parents were in management, upper level management in companies, and my grandparents were in mixed, some were in upper management, some were line staff. And so why I think it's really important to do business this way is because, we're all on this journey trying to figure out business. Whatever our role is at the time, we're trying to get better. We're trying to make sure that the next generation is better. And when you move from, line staff management into ownership, doesn't mean you become like a complete a-hole. Yes. And you suddenly are just there to do all the bad practices that were done to you. And so I say that to folks at home because there is a way of doing this properly where everybody wins, creating that environment.
Real leaders, authentic human leaders, start by valuing people. If you value a thing, you take care of it. You respect it, you inspect it, you are looking to see how you can make it better. And as a person, if you value your processes more than you value your people, that's going to show up. And people will feel that you only really care about this money, you don't care about me. And a person that values a person, respects that person, they treat that person like they value them. And if your team as an organization is not showing people that they value them, you can tell me you value me all you want, but that shows up differently when you show me differently.
Correct.
I think it's there. If you truly value a thing, you take care of it. If you truly value a person, you invest in that relationship. And
it's like one of the things that we do is we try and make sure that staff gets training, proper training. They get experiences. They have the space to develop their networks because those are really important as executives. And so it's and then you have that conversation with people where they get to say, hey, this is where I'm at in my life. This is where I want to go. Can you, of course, like everybody needs a salary to keep the wife happy and stuff like that, but or keep the spouse happy, but you have to, people also want to develop. Like I said, people are on that journey, like my grandfather worked for government. So, government is about as far from in terms of their attitude towards work and relationships with their management and their bosses and MPs from the private sector as you could get. And so it takes time for you to learn how it works. I mean, this is a system and things work a certain way. And so I come back to that duty and responsibilities. I thought that was so brilliant what you said, because it's a really great way of describing the two-way nature of the relationship.
Words don't sound very sexy or very employee-centric.
They sound like work.
Right, they sound like
because it is work.
Work is work, and I think you can come to work and do your job and still feel like, you know what, I'm really important here. You said something earlier. You said you don't have to like your coworker to do your work. I 100% disagree with that. Let me tell you why. Because a lot of people say it all the time, and to me, it's a crutch. It's something we say to get people to get over their feelings, right? But honestly, on average, people spend about 10 to 12 hours a day at work. This is not shift workers where they clock in and clock out. I'm just talking a general, and even shift workers sometimes are there before and after their shift.
Yes, with traffic, if you had traffic in there and all that stuff.
Correct. If I spend the majority of my waking hours in a workplace, I should at least get the benefit of liking who I work with. And if you realize that Ahmad is causing a problem, and everybody around us is telling us that Ahmad is a problem, my friend, release Ahmad from your organization. Because Ahmad is going to drive your business into the ground, and he's going to do it with a big smile on his face, and he's going to walk off and benefit from that. I
agree with that. A bad employee can really affect the corporate culture.
Everything.
And it's, it's like some people think that firing someone is a big to do for an organization. It's costly. It's costly for time. It's emotionally costly for even the person who's sitting across the desk doing it. But you can't. If the person cannot be rehabilitated into the work culture, then they don't need to be here. They need to be. It's actually better for you and for them and for the company if they go somewhere else. It's difficult when the organization is not progressive and the organization is not honest and authentic with feedback to their employees. If you have employee X, let's call him John.
John is an employee who is doing things that are contrary to what we believe should be done at the company. We should have been giving John feedback all along his journey. John, our company's expectation is A. You continue to do B. We're going to enroll you in a course to help you to understand more about A. We're going to have regular coaching with you to help you understand more about A. John continues after that conversation to demonstrate B. John, we're now going to take corrective action with you because you continue to decide to do B, right? Okay, so when John has done B 100% of the time often, he then gets to say, you know what, John, we're going to document this a bit further. We're going to write you up. We're going to have something happening. John is fully aware of what he's deciding to do. When you get to the conversation about termination, he's not surprised, unless it's, of course, some act that John did.
Like a one-off. Right. Yeah, sometimes
he hit somebody, whatever. That kind of one-off thing is not what we're talking about. We're talking about an organization that continues to see John do foolishness, allow it. And then somebody comes in one day, gets upset enough to fire him. He has a case against you, so there's no progressive discipline.
Well, let's obviously the courts will protect both the employer and the employee's rights. But, what we're talking about is how you never find your way into court, or at least rarely. It shouldn't be, especially when you shouldn't be going to court with your employees all the time. I mean, it's so last resort.
There's so many things you can do to avoid that, to create an environment where your people feel like, you know what? Court, what? This is my people, I got to work with them, and let's work with them.
That's right. I want to change just for the last minute of the show. I want to talk about the future and what COVID has kind of done, bubbling up to the surface these issues that people have been thinking about for a long time. And now, why won't you comment on that?
Yeah. So the future of the workplace, in my mind, is diverse, it's inclusive, it's belonging. People are no longer interested in tolerating the BS.
Yep.
People in the last 2 years have been forced to find their resilience. The Holy Spirit gave me an idea yesterday, that I'm going to say for the first time out of my own head. And there's EQ and there's IQ, but I'm thinking of developing a concept called RQ, and that's resilience quotient. Because a lot of people are going through a lot of stuff, and they are crumbling. Organizations are also crumbling because they don't know how to get through difficult times. And I think history has taught us that difficult times will come. There's no way around that.
No way around difficult times.
There's going to be valleys, there's going to be mountains, but I think people have been forced over the last 2 years to find their resilience. And a lot of people have said, you know what, company A, I don't have to take this anymore. I'm going to move on to either progressive organization or do my own thing. And I think organizations must realize that until they decide to put in a concerted effort and their money where their mouth is, and actually treat people with respect, dignify the employee experience, they will not survive.
I agree wholeheartely. We like to think of companies as these big buildings full of people in suits or a place where you go to work, but companies are essentially people, land, labor, and capital. It's understanding this and trying to get everybody on the same page, trying to treat people respectfully and how they deserve to be treated, that you're going to have that great customer experience that you had, because it becomes magic when it all works and everybody sees the benefit, because on the bottom line, the company starts making money, a lot of money.
I just want to say one more thing, please, JRC, with respect to the employee's responsibility as well. I don't want to sound like I'm just bad-mouthing employers or companies.
Hey, we're easy targets.
Yes, but employees must also decide. They have a choice to make to bring them their very best self to work every single day, despite their circumstance and in spite of your circumstance. If you feel like this is not it for you, then I challenge you to look for another opportunity and move on until you can bring your best self every single day. It is difficult to pay salaries. It is difficult to honor benefits. It is difficult to honor all of these things. And when employers take the risk of making you a part of their family, they expect that there's going to be fair, you're going to offer the best you have for this fair wage you're going to receive. Develop yourself as an employee, sharpen your skills every day, create community in your organizations, and bring things that are not right to the leader's attention. Don't stand around and talk about it in behind people's backs. actually bring it to the people's forefront so they can know what to do and fix it.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed this conversation. I loved having you on the show.